This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Tuesday, the 8th day of March in the year 2022. I'm Gordon Mosley. Here's what we're tracking tonight. 3 men lost their lives last evening after a speeding car that was being driven by a 19-year-old slammed into them as they stood along the roadway at the Willem on the west coast of Demerara. The car only came to a stop after slamming into a nearby bar and another vehicle. The 3 dead men were identified as 23-year-old Carlito Gobin, 41-year-old Kiram Rampersad, and 44-year-old Ayub Mohammed. 3 other persons were injured, including the 19-year-old driver Matthew Ambikar. They are all hospitalized with multiple injuries. In a statement today, the Guyana police force said a breathalyzer test was carried out on the driver, but there was no trace of alcohol in his system. He was reportedly racing another car at a time along the public road when he lost control of his vehicle and slammed into the 3 men on the roadside before crashing into the bar. The incident took place just before 10 o'clock last night. Eyewitnesses said the car that was being driven by the 19-year-old was going at a high speed, and when he lost control, it all happened suddenly. The 3 men were not given enough time to move out of the way as the car slammed into them, directly pitching their bodies onto the roadway. The police investigations into the late-night accident are ongoing, and charges are likely soon against the 19-year-old. More news coming up in just a moment.
How fast is fiber? Think fast. GTT Fiber has 3 packages with download speeds of 50, 100, and 150 megabits per second. That's fast enough to stream movies and music, to chat with Gran and Fran, to study, and more. What would you do? Upgrade to GTT Fiber today and don't get left behind tomorrow. Live your fantasy at Fantasy Gaming Lounge. Win big daily. Millions in cash prizes every week. Now located at Giftland Mall, Fantasy Gaming Lounge, the best bet in town.
Social media is a great way to stay connected, and let's face it, who doesn't like likes? Whether you're showing off that great outfit or celebrating a work promotion, your first priority should be staying safe online. So shop only on secure websites, those with URLs that begin with HTTPS. Never overshare, including your location with strangers online. Configure your Facebook privacy settings to only share your photos and other personal information with family and close friends. You can be social, but it's important to be safe online.
Combo pack up, we feeling best. Sunshine stacks above the rest. There is no contest, is the best mix, so we feeling best. Best value to how you feeling. Ole cheesy, too much ripples and more. Combo pack of flavors galore, yeah. Combo pack up, we feeling best. Sunshine stacks above the rest. There is no contest, is the best mix, so we feeling best.
Sunshine Snacks Combo Pack, now with a new look and new mix. Grab your pack today.
Best mix, so we feeling best.
We've got exciting news! All 12-ounce yellow cab Buster are now only $100. Buster, live in
Come
full
get
color.
your Buster, Buster $100. Come get your Buster, Buster $100.
Guyanese motorists are about to feel more pressure at the pump as gas prices are being increased as a result of the global increase in oil prices. Salt service stations in the country increased their prices to $246 per litre from $209. In a statement, the company said it has been monitoring the impact of the rising global oil prices on the cost of imported fuel into Guyana. According to Salt, since the end of January and in less than 6 weeks, the cost for a barrel of oil has increased by 44%. The company said the price of imported fuel into the country is not insulated from the current world developments, and it has no control over the worldwide dynamics. The company also said it initially delayed the increase, but the price for gasoline and diesel at the pump will be affected. It was explained that while a 10% reduction in the excise tax by the finance minister back in January was meant to make the prices at the pump more affordable, the developments since then internationally, including the war in Ukraine and shortages, have pushed prices to record levels. The general manager of Sol Guyana indicated that the company is committed to its customers and will continue to monitor the global developments. President Irfan Ali has commended women for their contributions to society in his message on International Women's Day, which was celebrated today. The president, in a short message, said the contributions of women are invaluable and they continue to pave the way in building the country. He said he wants to salute all women in Guyana, the region, and around the world for their strength of character and for their dignity, their honor, pride, and simplicity in which they go about every day, changing lives, changing countries, and changing communities. First Lady Arya Ali, in a message of her own, said women have been fighting the longest battle known in human history, the battle for gender equality. The First Lady said on International Women's Day, the battle continues.
We are soldiers armed with knowledge and a resilient spirit which refuses to surrender to patriarchy. Our battlefield is not confined to geographic or social spaces. It is everywhere. In the home, at the office, in the gym, at the restaurant, even in religious institutions. Everywhere we venture, our womenness is either viewed or treated as less than. Yet, we wake up each day determined to be vessels of change, actively seeking to create a fairer world for our women and girls to exist in.
For its part, the People's National Congress reformed through its women's arm, the National Congress of Women, said women and their families have experienced difficult situations in the last few years, citing the impact of climate change and environmental disruptions due to flooding in different communities throughout Guyana, as well as the economic and social hardships faced by women as a result of the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The National Congress of Women is appreciative of the sterling work of Guyanese women, especially our frontline workers, who have worked tirelessly during 2020, 2021, and 2022 to maintain basic services to Guyanese, particularly in the health, education, and public sectors. Our organization also congratulates our sisters who are contributing to the development of our country in different spheres: politics and public life, legal, education, health, science and technology, environment field, security, trade unions, religious, social and community organizations, and those in the field, office, and factory.
International Women's Day was celebrated today under the theme Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow. The theme was chosen to bring light to the issue that women bear a disproportionate burden of the impacts of the climate crisis and that they need to be central to the solutions for a sustainable planet. Guyana today submitted its memorial on the merits of its case against Venezuela, which is before the International Court. The submission of the documents was required by the court following its December 18th decision, which established its jurisdiction to hear the matter. In 2018, the UN Secretary General referred the matter to the International Court after the UN Good Offices process did not yield any result. Guyana wants the court to reaffirm the decision of the arbitral award of 1899, which determined and settled the boundary between Guyana and Venezuela. The government of Venezuela is against the court making any determination, since it believes the court has no jurisdiction to address the matter. But the court disagreed and has established that it has the jurisdiction. Guyana now looks to the court's judicial process and its settlement of the matter under the rule of law. This marks the 56th anniversary of the 1966 Geneva Agreement. In a statement, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said Guyana considers that the true commemoration of that agreement is in contributing in good faith to the fulfillment of its true meaning and intent by participating fully in the current judicial process deriving from it. Hence the submission today to the International Court of Justice. The former and present Guyana governments have been united in their position of the case being before the International Court, as they see it as a non-partisan matter and one that is grounded in maintaining the country's territorial integrity. Attorney General Anil Nandlal is hoping that the amendments to the Narcotic Drugs and Psychotropic Substances Control Act, which are currently before a parliamentary select committee, find favor with the opposition and other stakeholders. The bill, which was piloted by the Attorney General, seeks to remove custodial sentences for the possession of less than 30 grams of marijuana. A separate bill that was introduced by the opposition in January last year for the decriminalization of 500 grams of marijuana was voted down by the government.
There is some inability to agree at this point in time on what that small quantity should be. Government has a view, certain important stakeholders have another view, the opposition has a view, and hopefully we are able to arrive at a consensual position in the Select Committee of our National Assembly.
Removing custodial sentences for small quantities of marijuana has been a campaign promise of successive governments. Nonetheless, the Attorney General has assured that the government plans to move ahead with its campaign promise to decriminalize the small amounts of marijuana, since it is of the view that the penalties attached are way too harsh.
Currently, if you are found with over 2 grams, you can get as much as 3 years imprisonment as a penalty. That is considered to be harsh and oppressive, and we promise to change that.
According to the amendments, the possession of a quantity of cannabis or any substance held out to be cannabis that does not exceed 15 grams is punishable by mandatory counseling for a period to be determined by the counselor. Under the same amendments, the possession of any quantity of cannabis that exceeds 15 grams but does not exceed 30 grams is punishable by community service for a period of no more than 6 months. As the bill remains before the Special Select Committee, members of the public are asked to make submissions. As hope runs out in the search for the 3 fishermen missing at sea for over 2 weeks, the Minister of Home Affairs, Robeson Ben, today indicated that the authorities are at a stage where a decision will have to be made to abandon the searches. The minister said the search has been a long one, with no trace of the fishermen or their boat.
With MARAD and the Coast Guard have been making diligent efforts in respect of that matter, and it's been some time, and a decision would have to be made on the necessity for a continuation of the search and what was rescue hopefully at the beginning, but perhaps a recovery effort at the moment.
The 3 fishermen, Harold Anthony Damon, Ronald Burton and Winston Sam, went missing on the 19th of February out in the Atlantic Ocean just off the Maiconi coast. A 4th fisherman who survived said the fishing vessel started to encounter difficulties and flipped over suddenly, throwing the fishermen overboard. The survivor was saved by another group of fishermen, but a boat with the 3 others went underwater. The tragedy reignited calls for more monitoring of the waterways, especially in areas where Guyanese fishermen plied their trade. The group of fishermen worked for the Noble House Seafood Company, which was criticized for taking more than 24 hours before informing authorities about the tragedy in the Atlantic. Family members of the missing fishermen are still holding out hope, even as it fades. Let's tell you now that the 2 women who were arrested after a quantity of cocaine was discovered in masks and handbags at the Ogle Airport appeared in court today and were both remanded to jail. Sophia resident 22-year-old Akata Garnett appeared before the Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan at the Georgetown Magistrates Court, while 32-year-old Malika Scott of Grove appeared at the Sparendam Magistrates Court before Magistrate Russia Liverpool. It is alleged that on Saturday the 5th of March at the Eugene F. Karai International Airport, the 2 were involved in the trafficking of just over 11 pounds of cocaine. The illegal drug carried a street value of $5.6 million. The 2 women at their separate hearings both pleaded not guilty and were remanded to jail until the 30th of this month, when the matter will be called up again. Garnett was an outgoing passenger at the airport when the cocaine was discovered stashed in mats and other items in her luggage. After being arrested, it is alleged that she led investigators to the other woman who was then arrested. The Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit has been the lead agency in the probe.
This is Mocha.
Live your fantasy at Fantasy Gaming Lounge. Win big daily. Millions in cash prizes every week. Now located at Giftland Mall, Fantasy Gaming Lounge, the best bet in town.
We've got exciting news! All 12-ounce yellow cab Buster are now only $100. Buster, live in
Come
full
get
color.
your Buster, Buster $100. Come get your Buster, Buster $100.
People may forget the present you bought for them, but they'll never forget your scent. Find your signature fragrance at Elite Fragrances and Trade-In, located at 123 Regent Road Border between Ornock Street and Shiv Chandapal Drive. Call 619-5151 or 227-1255. Get a designer fragrance for yourself or loved one that they will never forget.
Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Across the region tonight, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro yesterday said he has agreed to an agenda for future talks with the U.S. delegation that he met on Saturday, the first high-level meeting between the two countries in years. Officials from the two countries discussed easing all sanctions on the South American country, but made little progress towards reaching a deal. 5 sources familiar with the matter told the Reuters news agency. The Venezuelan president said the meeting lasted 2 hours without specifying the topics discussed or who the U.S. delegates were. Sources previously told the Reuters news agency that the U.S. delegation was led by Juan Gonzalez, the White House's top advisor on Latin America, and the U.S. Ambassador James Story, as well as Roger Cartens, the United States Presidential Special Envoy for Hostage Affairs. Earlier, the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said the purpose of the trip was to discuss a number of issues, including energy security and the cases of 9 U.S. citizens who are in prison in Venezuela. The talks will continue, Mr. Maduro said. U.S. authorities are investigating what appeared to be one of the largest human smuggling attempts off U.S. shores in years, after a boat packed with 356 Haitian migrants ran aground in the Florida Keys on Sunday. Among the passengers, 158 jumped from the boat and attempted to swim toward the shore in Key Largo, despite rough seas. They were rescued from the water and detained by the U.S. Border Patrol, according to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency. The other 198 remained on the boat and were taken into custody by the U.S. Coast Guard. Several migrants were hospitalized for minor injuries but released promptly, an official said. No fatalities were reported, unlike an incident back in January when a migrant boat capsized near the Bahamas in rough seas, leaving only 1 known survivor, 1 person dead, and 38 people missing. Just days after the U.S. Coast Guard intercepted 191 Haitian migrants aboard an overloaded sailing vessel that was believed to be heading for Florida. And finally tonight, international news. U.S. President Joe Biden has announced a ban on Russian oil and other energy imports today in retaliation for the invasion of Ukraine, underscoring strong bipartisan support for a move that he acknowledged would drive up U.S. energy prices. Mr. Biden said they're banning all imports of Russian oil and gas energy. He told reporters at the White House that means that Russian oil will no longer be acceptable in U.S. ports, and the American people will deal another powerful blow to Russian President Vladimir Putin and his war machine. Oil prices jumped on the news, with benchmark Brent crude from May climbing by 5.4% per barrel. Biden has been working with allies in Europe who are far more dependent on Russian oil to isolate Russia's energy-heavy economy and Mr. Putin. Britain announced shortly before Biden's remarks that it would phase out the import of Russian oil and gas by the end of this year. Biden said sanctions imposed by the U.S. and its allies had already caused the Russian economy to crater. He said the latest move moves had been made in close consultation with allies and partners around the world. The U.S. imported more than 20.4 million barrels of crude and refined products a month on average from Russia in 2021. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley, reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.